Hello and welcome to Firstpost America. I'm Eric Ham, coming to you live from the National Constitution Center here in Philadelphia. Over the next few minutes, we'll take you from the United States and around the world, covering all the top stories of the day. But before that, here's a look at the latest headlines. Russia and China began large-scale joint air and maritime patrols, underlining close ties between the two nations. The drills are being held over the Pacific and the Baltic Seas. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and his British counterpart David Lammy arrive in Ukraine's capital, Kyiv. The two diplomats will meet President Volodymyr Zelensky to discuss Ukraine's request for military aid. Australian police detained at least 33 anti-war protesters after intense clashes break out in Melbourne. Demonstrators clashed with police officials outside a defense exhibition in Australia's second largest city. Airport union workers protest at Kenya's main international airport in Nairobi, causing flight cancellations and delays. Demonstrations erupt over a proposed deal for an Indian firm to lease the Nairobi airport for 30 years. And Typhoon Yagi brings torrential rain and flash floods to Vietnam after making landfall earlier this week. Authorities say the death toll has crossed 140, with almost 60,000 people displaced. We began right here in the United States. Vice President Kamala Harris and Donald Trump finally came face to face for their first and possibly only presidential debate. The showdown in Philadelphia began with an awkward handshake, but went rather smoothly thanks to the muted microphones. Kamala Harris and Donald Trump traded barbs for 90 minutes in a face-off that was light on policy, but heavy on personal attacks. The Republican presidential nominee tried to portray his Democratic opponent as a far-left candidate who would push for open border policies and confiscate people's guns. He even promoted false rumors about Haitian immigrants eating pet cats and dogs in Ohio. Meanwhile, Kamala Harris questioned Donald Trump's fitness for office and called him a disgrace. In fact, on several occasions, the vice president even appeared to be suppressing her laughter as Donald Trump struggled to stay on course throughout the debate. On the economy, the Democrat attacked Donald Trump's intention to impose high tariffs on foreign goods and labeled it a Trump sales tax.
My opponent, on the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before, which is to provide a tax cut for billionaires and big corporations, which will result in $5 trillion to America's deficit.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump attacked the Biden administration for its economic policies and claimed that inflation was lower when he was in office.
We're doing tariffs on other countries. Other countries are going to finally, after 75 years, pay us back for all that we've done for the world. Look, we've had a terrible economy because inflation which is really known as a country buster. It breaks up countries. We have inflation like very few people have ever seen before, probably the worst in our nation's history. We were at 21%, but that's being generous because many things are 50, 60, 70, and 80% higher than they were just a few years ago.
And on abortion, Donald Trump defended his stance and said Americans across the nation wanted Roe v. Wade overturned.
They have, and she has, destroyed our country with policy that's insane. Almost policy that you'd say they have to hate our country.
President Trump, you've often touted that you were able to kill Roe v. Wade. Last year, you said that you were proud to be the most pro-life president in American history.
For 52 years, they've been trying to get Roe v. Wade into the states. And through the genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also.
Meanwhile, Kamala Harris said Donald Trump's opinion is insulting to the women of America.
The majority of Americans believe in a woman's right to make decisions about her own body, and that is why in every state where this issue has been on the ballot, in red and blue states both, the people of America have voted for freedom.
Vice President Harris,
Excuse me, I
thank
have
you.
to respond. Another lie. It's another lie. I have been a leader on IVF, which is fertilization. You should ask, will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do that? Why don't you ask her that question?
Why don't you answer
That's the problem.
question? Would you
because
veto?
under Roe v. Wade,
Answer the question, would you veto?
You could.
Donald Trump also went after Kamala Harris on foreign policy, saying she hates Israel and doesn't want to stop the war in Gaza. He also said the vice president failed to negotiate with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and Russia's Vladimir Putin before the war started. Now, in response, Kamala Harris said Putin would eat up Donald Trump for lunch. She sarcastically claimed the former president admires dictators and has exchanged love letters with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Now, soon after the debate concluded, Donald Trump declared himself the winner. Meanwhile, the Harris campaign was quick to propose a second debate between the two presidential candidates. Post-debate polls show that Kamala Harris turned in a better performance on stage than Donald Trump. Now, with the U.S. presidential election just 54 days away, it remains to be seen what impact the latest debate has on the millions of undecided voters in the United States. And staying with the debate, pop icon Taylor Swift endorsed Kamala Harris for president just minutes after the presidential showdown. In an Instagram post, the Bad Blood singer said Americans need a warrior to fight for their rights and causes. She signed her post as Childless Cat Lady, taking a jab at Donald Trump's running mate J.D. Vance's remarks about women without children. In return, billionaire and Trump supporter Elon Musk offered to give her a child. Our next report tells you more.
After plenty of speculation as to whether she would break her silence on the 2024 presidential election, pop icon Taylor Swift has finally announced her pick. Just minutes after the US presidential debate ended on Tuesday, the singer endorsed Kamala Harris for president. In an Instagram post, Swift told her 283 million followers that Americans need a warrior to fight for their rights and causes. She also praised the Democratic presidential nominee as a steady-handed and gifted leader who can bring calm and peace to the country.
It's my promise to everyone here, when I am president, we will continue our fight for working families of America.
Not just Kamala Harris, but the 34-year-old singer also hailed Democratic vice presidential nominee Tim Walz for standing up for LGBTQ+ rights, IVF, and women's right to her body for decades. The Bad Blood singer signed the post as Childless Cat Lady, a dig at Republican nominee Donald Trump's running mate J.D. Vance, who characterized Democrats as the party of the same. Her post was accompanied by a picture of her embracing her cat Benjamin Button, one of the 3 furry felines she owns. Swift's signature prompted a potshot reaction from billionaire and Trump supporter Elon Musk on the social media platform X, which he owns. Musk made a bizarre offer to Swift and said he was ready to give her a child and guard her cats with his life. Taylor Swift has been a longtime critic of Trump, especially since she became vocal about US politics in 2016. In 2020, she openly endorsed Joe Biden for president so that America could begin its healing process. In her latest Instagram post, the singer pointed out that AI-generated images were falsely suggesting that she supported Trump. These images were shared by Trump on social media himself. However, her stance on Trump was recently questioned by fans when she was seen hugging Brittany Mahomes, who's the wife of football player Patrick Mahomes and an open supporter of Donald Trump. Notably, Swift's boyfriend Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes both play for the Kansas City Chiefs. However, keeping away all the controversy surrounding one of the biggest pop culture superstars, one can't unsee the impact of her endorsements. Her few words can make a huge difference, and the Democrats are delighted with Taylor Swift's announcement.
She is a cultural icon. Something big has happened in the world in terms of the energy and vibrancy she's associated with, the optimism she's associated with. That was a big deal as well. But even without that, this was an extraordinary night for the campaign and for the American people.
Speaking out is a big darn deal. Why a missing zone? Berks County's own, Pennsylvania's own Taylor Swift. That's a huge endorsement.
And now, with Swift endorsing Kamala Harris publicly, especially with the election less than 2 months away, one Instagram post might influence the already tight presidential race.
You know. Oh, it's going to be good. We're going to be good. We're going to be fine.
And shifting to the Middle East, Israel has reportedly offered Hamas Chief Yahya Sinwar safe passage out of Gaza in return for the release of 101 hostages that are still in captivity. Israel says the option of a safe passage was proposed almost 2 days ago. However, Hamas is yet to respond. Now, Hamas Chief Yahya Sinwar is one of the main masterminds and architects of the October 7th attacks on Israel and has repeatedly vowed to never leave Gaza and fight for the Palestinian cause. If Sinwar takes the deal for safe passage, it would put his leadership in serious doubt, with over 45,000 Palestinians having lost their lives by Israeli bombing because of the October 7th Hamas attack. Additionally, Israel's offer for a safe passage could also be a ploy to get Hamas to disclose details of the whereabouts of where Sinwar is hiding. Meanwhile, the Israeli army continues with search and rescue operations in Gaza's tunnels in an attempt to rescue the remaining hostages.
The shaft goes down about 20 meters into the ground, using 4 separate ladders. There, it connects to a narrow tunnel with no rooms that is so low you can't stand up straight in it. The tunnel is about 120 meters long and ends in a blocked iron door. This short blocked part of the tunnel is where the hostages were held and murdered.
The Israeli military says that it is advancing deeper into the Hamas tunnels and are closer than ever to rescuing a group of hostages.
We know that between 2 to 6 terrorists were here with the hostages. We are gathering all the stuff here for forensics, for intelligence. We can see magazines, an AK-47 magazine, chargers, all used by the terrorists, Quran books, a hairbrush. We need to check who used it.
Meanwhile, Israel conducted airstrikes in central Gaza targeting a humanitarian safe zone, killing over 40 Palestinians on Tuesday. Israel has now released footage of the safe zone alleging Hamas operatives can be clearly seen embedded among civilians. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office says that the progress in ceasefire talks are at a very grim stage and would not materialize into a truce. Israel says Hamas Chief Sinwar could bring an end to the fighting in Gaza if he accepts the safe passage offer in exchange for the hostages. Now, Sinwar's current whereabouts remain unknown, as he hasn't been spotted in public since October 7th, and it remains to be seen whether he will take up Israel's offer or continue hiding in Gaza. In North America, Mexico has made history by becoming the first country to allow voters to elect judges at every level. The reform will require over 1,600 judges, including Supreme Court justices, to stand for election by 2025 or 2027. Now, outgoing President Andrés Manuel López Obrador has long pushed for this change, claiming the judiciary served the interests of the political elite. However, as voting on the legislation began on Tuesday, demonstrators stormed the upper house and entered the chamber chanting the judiciary will not fall. The lawmakers were then rushed to a former Senate building where they resumed their debate as protesters shouted, "Mr. Senator, stop the dictator."
They are betraying the people, selling their votes shamefully for this reform to be approved. It is going to lead us to a dictatorship.
We are defending the Republic also because they are trying to concentrate the 3 branches of government in one person. It is one person who wants to manipulate the 3 powers to have total control.
While opponents argue this move will expose judges to criminal pressure in a country where drug cartels already wield enormous influence, the outgoing Mexican president has dismissed the criticism, claiming the judicial system is at the service of white-collar crime.
The justice system in Mexico is corrupt and it is dysfunctional, but the reality is that this reform will likely only make the situation worse. It could make it easier for the government to co-opt the courts because the candidates that voters will be able to choose from will be selected by the government, Congress, and the Supreme Court. It could open the door to even more punitive populism in Mexico because it creates the possibility that judges will be taking into account not only the facts of the case when they're deciding cases, but also how every single one of their rulings could affect their chances of being reelected.
Meanwhile, the U.S. and Canada, Mexico's primary trading partners, have warned that the reforms could harm investor confidence and threaten the country's legal framework. Human rights groups have also criticized the reform, warning it could violate international standards of judicial independence. But despite the outcry, President Obrador is determined to see the reforms enacted before he leaves office in October. As tensions rise and the Supreme Court considers whether it has the power to stop the changes, one question looms. Will Mexico's judiciary stand its ground, or has the stage been set for a seismic shift? Finally, from Asia, Bali, the Indonesian province known as the world's most popular tropical destination, is cracking down on over-tourism. Local officials are implementing dramatic measures such as tourist taxes and a ban on the construction of new hotels, villas, and nightclubs. But the big question is, can Bali find a balance between its tourism-dependent economy and preserving the local environment? Our next report explains.
Bali, the island of the gods, has always been a magnet for dreamers, adventurers, and wanderers. Its lush landscapes, mystical temples, and vibrant beaches have long enticed millions. Yet behind the scenes of this paradise, a strain is beginning to show. Overdevelopment and over-tourism are slowly tightening their grip on this tropical gem. After the COVID-19 pandemic hit, tourism in Bali, like everywhere else, came to a grinding halt. The once bustling streets lined with surf shops and yoga retreats suddenly stood eerily quiet. But in the calm, Bali found time to breathe. Its natural beauty began to heal from the years of heavy traffic, pollution, and endless construction. However, that pause was temporary. As travel restrictions lifted, tourists came back, eager to soak in the island's charm. In the first half of this year alone, Bali's airport saw nearly 3 million foreign visitors, and it wasn't long before the streets were jammed again. Construction cranes were back in action, and the locals began to grow uneasy. However, this surge in visitors brought its share of problems. Videos of tourists behaving badly, posing naked at sacred sites, gate-crashing temple dances, and tourists riding motorbikes recklessly started making rounds on social media. These stunts, often done for likes and follows, quickly angered locals who hold their culture in deep reverence. But that was just the tip of the iceberg. With an estimated 200,000 foreigners living on the island, local residents began to feel the pinch. They were struggling to live in a concrete jungle. Government figures showed there were 541 hotels in Bali last year, which went up from 507 in 2019. Hence, in response, the Indonesian government has decided to take action. A bold moratorium on new hotels, villas, and nightclubs in certain areas of Bali was put into motion. Though the timeline remains unclear, officials are considering a freeze for up to a decade, which the Indonesian authorities believe is a drastic step, but one they feel is necessary. This decision comes on the heels of other efforts to ease the strain on Bali. A $10 tourism tax has already been implemented to help protect the island's cultural heritage. Bali's tourism minister has warned that southern Bali is dangerously close to over-tourism, comparing it to Barcelona in Spain, where resentment towards tourists has reached a boiling point. So for now, as Bali stands at a crossroads, it must find a way to balance the allure of its thriving tourism industry with the need to preserve its natural beauty and the livelihood of its people. Whether through a halt in construction or new regulations, one thing is clear: Bali's future depends on how it navigates this delicate path.
That's our show for today. We certainly thank you so much for tuning in. We hope to see you right back here again tomorrow. Thanks again for watching.
Hello and welcome to Fast and Factual on Firstpost, where we get you the top 50 stories from around the world.